Hi everyone, Tim here from vMix, and today we're going to continue our series called Getting Started with vMix. Now we've already covered a lot of the basics, including installation, the interface, adding an input, and creating a small production. Today we're going to look at the nuts and bolts of streaming and recording. Now this is a very brief overview of the streaming and recording settings. We have plenty of in-depth tutorials and a lot of documentation on streaming and recording on our website. So let's get started. Okay, so here we have the vMix interface. We've got some elements, we've got a camera, we've got our picture in the output. So we want to start streaming this picture. So what we're going to do is show you how to set up the streaming settings in vMix. So if we go down the bottom here, we'll go to the gear icon, and that will allow us to configure the streaming settings. Now you'll notice that we have a destination list here. So these are ones that are inbuilt into vMix, so you can just include your own presets there. So for example, if I wanted to use Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, I just need to log in with my account and then start setting up the stream. Other places for paid CDNs, you just use your username and password or your email address and password to log into them, and that will allow you to create a stream. If you don't see your provider in the list, you can go to Custom RTMP Server, and your provider should give you this information, and you just need to plug that in there and start streaming to their destination. So, for example, we've got YouTube set up here. We've already logged in, so we're ready to go and start streaming this production. Now, if you've selected somewhere that has a channel listing, you can then select that channel underneath. Sometimes you can have 10, 20 different channels and you want to go to a specific streaming channel. That's where you select it. So underneath that is the all-important quality section. So the quality determines, how good your stream is going to look. Now, first of all, you will need to remember that you do need an internet connection to do live streaming. And next, you're going to need a good upload speed. So for example, we recommend that people use a 50% headroom when it comes to live streaming. So say you had 6 megabit upload, you want to max out at 3 megabit. That way you've got that 50% leeway in case there's network congestion or someone jumps on the computer and starts doing thing on your local network or something along those lines. So we recommend 50%. Other people might go a lot higher than that, but you're asking for trouble if you get too close to your upload speed. It's not going to take much for your stream to suffer. So the higher the bit rate, the higher the quality that you're sending. Now keep in mind that you may want to consider, instead of streaming at 1080, to maybe stream at 720 if you don't quite have the upload speed. So you could do a really good 720 upload if that's what you wanted to do if you didn't quite have the room. Now from the drop-down menu, you'll notice there's a lot of different presets that you can use that are automatically built into vMix. However, if you just go to the gear section here, you can then change the bitrate, the size, and play around with the different settings here. Typically, if you're just starting out, I wouldn't mess around with these settings underneath here. Just go with a pre-built configuration or a recommendation from your streaming provider. I know that with YouTube, they recommend, say, 3 to 6 megabit if you're doing 1080 and lower if you're using 720. So your provider should be able to offer you the quality settings so they know what's going to look best on their system and what best bitrate to use for your production. Underneath that, you'll see the use hardware encoder tick box. You'll see this a lot around vMix because vMix heavily relies on using the GPU to take use off their CPU. If you've got a newish NVIDIA graphics card, tick this box and the streaming encoding will be done on the graphics card and give some space to your CPU. Now that's basically it. That's how you set up your streaming within vMix. We have in-depth videos about this as well and have plenty of documentation if you wanted to check that out. Now up the top here you'll see a 2 and a 3. So in vMix 20, this is how the streaming sections look. If I wanted to stream to multiple locations, I click the number 2 and then I can choose the provider, and then I can also then change the quality of that stream as well if I wanted to. But if you're just starting out, it's probably best to kind of just practice streaming to 1 and then move on from there, because it's going to use a lot more bandwidth if you're streaming to 3 locations. So if you're looking to really stream to a lot of locations, you need to consider the bandwidth. And you also might want to use somewhere like Restream or Switchboard that take one stream in and send it out to multiple platforms. So once that's done, we can save it if we wanted to, our streaming settings, and click save and close, and then just hit the stream button to start streaming. So whatever we've got set up in our streaming settings, it's going to now stream to. So we've already set up our YouTube page. So somebody out there possibly watching Dan surf on our YouTube page, but I think I set it to private. So if you're having issues with your stream, you may see this button down here go orange or amber. That's because you don't have enough upload speeds, or you have a low spec computer and it's struggling with the encode. So before doing any streaming, always do some speed tests online to make sure you've got the upload speed and adjust accordingly. And also do some practice tests to see how your computer handles the streaming. Have a look at the CPU usage in the bottom left-hand corner and make sure that your computer can handle it. Now, if you contact vMix about your streaming settings, they may ask you to show you the logs. So the logs are available here for your streaming, and you can send that to them if they ask for it. So I think that's about it for the streaming. It's fairly straightforward. If you have any questions, again, send us through an email and we can help you out. So we're going to stop the stream now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the recording. So we're going to the recording sections now. Click the little gear icon. On the left-hand side, you'll see the different availabilities for file types when you do your recording. So anything from AVI all the way down. FFmpeg allows you to record at different codecs. So using something like MPEG-2 or ProRes. However, high quality ones are going to use a lot more CPU. So when you're first starting out, using something like MP4 is the easiest way to go. That's what we do for our live stream. So when we do our live stream, we'll start streaming for 2 hours, but then when we have our actual show, we'll just start and stop the recording for the show. So that way we can do a really high quality recording and then upload that to YouTube later on. So as we mentioned, you can stream and record with vMix at the same time. That's no problem with that. So what you want to do is choose a file name up here. You can browse for a location, and choose the file name that you want to use. Then select the size. We've got a 1080 production, so we want it to save as 1080. Same with the frame rate. Now the bit rate will determine the quality of the video. The higher the bit rate, obviously, the larger the video file is. So keep that in mind. Now for the profile, typically if you're just starting out, just use the H.264 main and use the hardware encoder if you've got one of the newish NVIDIA cards. Underneath that you've got the audio, so you can set what audio you want to go with the recording. Again, if you're just starting out, I would just leave this all as it is. And then you can also change the new file every, which will break up the recording into different minutes of files in case you're worried about issues with your computer or something like that. Now from vMix 20 onwards, there is also the ability to set up a second recording if you've got one of the higher editions. So you can enable that and then obviously set it up again. So you can set different qualities. And then you can also choose to not just record the output like you do with the first one. The first one is linked with this output window. The second one can be linked to a different output as well. So once you've set up your settings, just hit the record button like you do with the streaming, and that will start recording. So that's basically it. That's how you record and how you stream in vMix. So we're just going to stop the record. Another thing that I wanted to cover was the ability to show a full screen output of vMix. So if you've got a graphics card with multiple outputs, so like 2 HDMI or DVI or DisplayPort or something like that, then you can actually view the vMix interface on one screen and then an output of the full screen or a multi-view on the second screen. So I'm going to quickly show you how to set that up. Just going to press this button here. So the full screen here will determine what we're going to display on the other monitor. So we just wanted to use the output so we know what we're actually streaming. So I'm just going to turn it on. I'm just going to move it up to this over this one here. So as you can see behind me, I've got the vMix screen on this side, and then I've got a full screen output here. So this is handy when we do our live show, where here we can control it and then we can see exactly what we're sending out so we don't make any mistakes or anything like that. I can also adjust this to the multi-view. So I can go, okay, go camera 1, go camera 2, go camera 4 if I've got a producer off on the side with an additional monitor or something like that. Or I could put it on a big screen if I wanted to via the HDMI output. Okay, so there's a couple other things to consider when you are doing external outputs. You can use NDI, or you could use a capture card perhaps that had an external output on it as well. But we won't go into that today. You can check out some other videos and documentation about that if you need to. Thanks for watching this video. As we mentioned before, this was a really brief overview of the streaming and recording settings and how to get started with that. If you have any more in-depth questions about streaming and recording, feel free to check our knowledge base, our documentation, our videos, or send us an email via vmix.com for more information. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check the description to view any of the information and links that we've listed in this video. If you'd like to watch another video in this tutorial series, click one of the videos above.